Welcome, everybody, and thank you for being here. I am Coach Les, and I'm here with Sujata, the author of the book Against All Odds. And we are here today to give you a 1 hour of podcasting where we are going to share with you some of the what I would call frailties of humanity and some of the areas in life where we get stopped by and frustrated and caught by how people are and how people react. And today I'm going to pass the mic over to Sujata, and she's going to share with us a little bit about our topic. And the way that we do this here is we tend to spend some time talking about the topic, Sujata and I do, and then if there are people in Clubhouse, because we're connected to a podcast, a social media app called Clubhouse, where we invite people up on stage and they can join in the conversation and become part of the conversation. And we feed it back into Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and also Twitter. So we look forward to getting you all interested in having you all want to share your wisdom and knowledge with us as you participate here during the course of the next hour. So with that, Sujata, welcome.
Thank you, as usual, for your time, patience, generosity. There's always a lack of words to describe what you do consistently, but I appreciate that immensely. So today's topic, which I would like to talk about, not many people actually dwell on it, is jealousy. There's another word for it, envy, but I think that it is jealousy, which is a root cause of a lot of problems in society. Shall I elaborate?
Yes, you definitely can.
Okay, so I am going to give examples. Jealousy is not only about people who are in a romantic relationship, it's there across board. There are peers who are jealous of each other and their accomplishments. There are siblings who could be jealous of each other. There are even friends who could be jealous, maybe not in a very negative way. It does creep in, and you can, if you are observant, you will find it in the way people talk, the way people try to put you in a box, or whether they belittle you, try to put you down, or they're condescending in their behavior. So it's there all across the board. When somebody is threatened, for if you take from my book example, um, when my husband was number 2 in the company, and his boss, who was, I don't like to bring in the gender part, however, I can give you 2 examples. One was a female and one was a male. One was in India and one was abroad. And they both tried to curtail his upward movement because he was a threat to them, and they didn't want to give him his due position. Then there are peers who don't want you to go forward, so they will do some amount of minor politics to go forward, which I would say is petty, and sometimes it low stoop, it's like really low. It's like stooping below the belt, so to speak. Um, the one with the boss was when he was having an eye operation and recovering, and he was told to look for something else because that was the only vulnerable moment that you could pick on. In front of people, you will say all the nice things. What you do behind speaks volume. And I give the mic to you.
Well, it's very interesting. And I just wrote something that I'm going to, I think, is going to be now, first of all, I have to reduce it by 17 letters because it won't fit. Okay, now 9. And now 6. I'll just get rid of that word. Here we go. And what I thought was here that we could share your view on jealousy in the business world or in the house next door world, maybe even the wife or kids in sports and or society world. And because it always seems to be everybody's trying to one up the neighbor, do better than the neighbor. Does that make sense, Sujata?
Absolutely.
It always seems to be that everybody's trying to catch up to the, and there used to be a saying, in at least when I was growing up, what are the Joneses doing?
Yes, I'm
whoever,
familiar with that.
whoever
Yes.
whoever the Joneses are, I have no idea.
Yeah, it could be neighbors, it could be whosoever, but the Jones are that, somebody who has something which you don't have and you aspire to have.
Yep.
So if the neighbors have a car, you want to have a bigger car, or you want to have a car just because the neighbors have it. And the neighbors are doing this, or look at what they are doing. And so, the battle is probably in the house with the between two spouses, where the husband and wife will say, oh, we should have that, and look at them, they are doing this, they are going out, you know they belong to a certain circle, why are we not there? So yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, that it can be in the house, it can be in the corporate world, which I gave examples, where you want to be better. It comes down to basic things like even dressing, you know. So if somebody is well dressed and the other one is not, then that also creates a problem.
Yeah, I agree. And it's watches, it's cars.
Exactly. Everything that can be owned is definitely something which others may covet, or may aspire to have, and if they don't have it, then they can be nasty about it.
Yeah. And the question for me has always been, I'm my own worst enemy, right? So for me, the fight is always against myself. I don't need to worry about the Joneses. I'm hard enough on myself trying to keep up
Yes.
my own conversation. So I think that's the fourth and final piece for our discussion would be to look and see how are we on ourselves. We grow up thinking that we're going to be this way and that way, and then we take a left turn instead of a right turn, and life ends up being a little different. And do we live in the world of regret, or do we get over it and make the most out of where we're at and create a miracle where we're at? That's the question.
I agree.
So I'm really interested, Andrea, David, if you guys want to come up and join in the conversation, we'd love to hear from either of you as well. And Byron, I'd love to just toss the mic over to you and hear what's going on. What are you thinking about in this forum at the moment?
Hey, Coach Les.
Good afternoon.
I heard a lot. Oh, sorry. I heard a lot, and I can relate on a lot. Just from the opposite end of, just coming from nothing and never really having that kind of jealousy factor. Because I had a lot of, just a lot of self-doubt as a kiddo. So there wasn't really a need to do that. It was just more survival instinct, I think. Like you said, Coach, just hard on myself. And I think that paid off the largest for me, because I was blind to some of my, my achievements that maybe other people got jealous of over the years. I just wasn't really into the idea of, stacking things on top of each other and, standing on top of them and praising myself. I just was, supporting my family and putting, my left foot in front of my right foot, achieving a lot. But I think I was always focused on internal growth and just always asking questions for myself and others. So it really didn't play a jealousy part in me, per se. I, as the years went by, I, put myself in positions to be around neighbors and things like that in neighborhoods that was very prevalent, because the lifestyles were different, and the money scale for my family and those families were equal, but who we were, how we came up, how we appropriated ourselves was completely different. And we could see some of those little value structures where, there was challenges within a family structure, maybe, or definitely. And then they would oppose their jealousy in ways on our family, just because we didn't live in that kind of stressed environment. We were more free. We weren't worried about our clothes. We didn't, we really didn't care about how our front yard was manicured compared to our neighbors. Just little things like that were, you could see the reservation of, people pulling away or judging or, positioning themselves that they were better. So, maybe they judged themselves in those moments, but it wasn't really put in front of our face as jealousy until the kids got in school, and then had to go to, school with the kids of those other parents. And our kiddos, interpreted the word jealousy for us and really put that in front of our face as there's a lot of pressure going on, and there's not an accompanying group of people that can just kind of understand outside of those visual monetary, kind of reflections of who you are. So I think that's when it came about, when I started having my kiddos, and right around junior high school, I started focusing a little bit more on that word in the context of have not or have kind of mindset. And, and in my family at the time, I do believe my ex-wife had some, jealousy kind of moments for me as a kiddo growing up and becoming, kind of pseudo successful, because she left her career to kind of raise the kids. And, she was the breadwinner when we first got married, because, she's 8 years older than I was. But I never really took it that way. I just took it as, this is just a challenge to overcome. I guess I maybe should have seen it as a little bit of jealousy. Maybe I could have appropriated myself better to help, change some of those situations. But either way, I think jealousy goes, a long way if you want it to. But I don't really use that word a lot. I use other words, just to surround those kind of energies. But yeah, but thanks for letting me share a little bit. I'm just kind of in between doing things right now and needed a break. And then I saw the Clubhouse pop up. I was like, hey, I know these people. They really have conversations that are worth having. So I appreciate you guys.
Well, thank you, Byron. Thanks for being here. And I know I'm going to just kind of do a little quick reset, what we call a reset here on Clubhouse, to let people know. And also those of you that are listening, I see there's a person that's listening on Facebook, to just let you know a little bit about what it is that we're communicating about. And the idea is that we're looking for people to, of course, have this conversation where you're sharing your view on jealousy in the business world or in the house next door world, maybe even the wife or kid comparisons in sports and or society. All of these comparisons that bring up this thing called jealousy. That's what we want to look at today. We want to share and see, kind of just get a full encompassing view of it, because it really is the human condition. And we have the opportunity to shift that and change that. And I think that's one of the fun things about having these rooms, is to be able to play with that game set. And with that, I'm going to pop the microphone over to, or at least the opportunity to speak, over to Sister Jeanette. How are you?
Hi, Janet.
Hi, Coach. Hey, yeah, I'm still at work, but I'm listening. I sent everybody home so I could get some things done. And yes, the jealousy, here's a question. Can you tie that jealousy feeling with competition? Many times, people use a lot, they're competitive, but is that sparked by any kind of jealousy? There's that one, we always have that one up mindset. And one of the things that I notice when you have competition in the workplace, there is that competition, and it kind of like is sparked by a kind of jealousy. Oh, why is the boss listening to them and not to me? So there is that competition element to it. When it's at the home, it's the same thing. I see the same thing. There's a competition. There's a competition for a recognition, or the sharing of the parents, or having favor from the parents. In the marriage, there's, I have to speak for myself, because I have friends where they don't have that competition. They don't have that jealousy. They just look to see where their strengths are, and they just go to work and they just do. It doesn't matter if the husband stays home with the kids or the wife. They just look at who loves their job better. Maybe the wife loves their job better. She makes good money. And the husband says, we want one parent home. I'll take care of the kids. You go to work. If I need to go to work, I will. But, it's having that sense of security where you can do things like that, and you can work together, gravitate together to work. And I have many friends that's what they're built on. They just look at who's going to thrive, who has that strength, which one's going to stay home, and they make the decision together. And then there are those with the competition. I've seen marriages fail. If one makes more money than the other, one was able to do more than the other. I see what it does. There's that sense of insecurity. There's that competitiveness that I really see has to be tied to that jealousy mode. That's why I always ask that question. Is it really jealousy? Do they hide it as a, competition, but they're really jealous? Yes, that's how, I have to throw it back at a question. Is it really that competitive spirit that drives that jealousy, or vice versa? And that's my share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeanette.
Well said, Janet, as usual. And that's exactly the point, that this competitiveness does stem from jealousy. When you want to, go ahead and you feel that the other is much more than what you, it also stems, I think, somewhat of insecurity and low self-esteem. Because if you are self-aware and you don't have that insecurity, then you would not be jealous. You would actually promote somebody's progression, and would be saying that, okay, I'm happy for you, you know you go ahead and you achieve what you want, and I'm happy to take the back seat. That doesn't always happen, and that's why there is a lot of conflict.
And I think,
Yeah. Oh, I could jump in there real quick. I
Go
think
ahead.
the self-worth side is, now that you say that, that could be tied to that jealousy, that's in all of us. It could come out because there's an unequal, balance in a person's mindset when their self-worth is kind of put in question from, either a direction of a friend, a coworker, or even a loved one, a partner. And it, without being able to have communication or bridging the gap with, awareness, that could really spiral into, the reactive state of what I would say is jealousy, when it shows up, and it's not really appropriated for the situation and handled. So yeah, I could see self-worth definitely being tied to that. I know those things firsthand, but for me, I really understand communication on that level and awareness. So I guess I didn't really put those things together until you said that. But yeah, that's a good one.
Well, once again, for those of you that just popped in, Annetta, if you look in the back channel, we kind of posed the question, what's your view on jealousy in the business world or in the house next door, maybe even the world with your wife or kids or husband, and all of the things that fire up and draw this twinge of jealousy. And for those people that are here inside of the 24-hour Bible study, this is the devil, the man of mischievous. He wants to stir the pot always. He doesn't want community supporting each other. He wants community fighting each other, which can happen when some of this stuff gets out of hand. So I think one of the ways to handle it as an employer, if we're listening to this from that employer aspect in the replays, is to make sure that you are individually creating goals, creating rewards and structures to support each individual, to support each area, and maybe competing against themselves, competing against like-minded individuals in their workforce, and being responsible for that. So I'm super excited to continue this discussion. I think it's a much needed one. I think parents don't handle it very well. I think they get frustrated and they make blanket statements and they don't realize what those blanket statements, what the damage they do, the frustrations they create. It's crazy. I'm a qualified coach, and I think I have pretty tough skin sometimes. And there are still people that make accusations, and I may not even believe the accusation. Where I get upset and frustrated or hurt is, how could they even think up that frustration or that situation? Like, where did it come from? It wasn't even in the realm of our relationship. And here it comes flying in as a big pink elephant in the middle of the room. And then I've got to deal with that.
Hey, Coach Les, again, I'll jump in there real quick. Those are the kind of things where awareness comes into play before they, become a pink elephant, with connection. And like you said, on the business front, usually people on the business side, from my experience, there's, what they call middle management, and there's multiple layers between decision makers and action takers. And that reward structure or that connection point is usually put on the middle management as their job. And the quantification of that is usually where the downfall is. There's a disconnect of, well, it's your job to take care of these kind of, connection points to make everybody have value and be aware of the moment when it's not valued and how to handle it. So it goes to the home, it goes everywhere with connections and awareness. And structuring, your home or your business in those kind of appropriate manners should be a priority for efficient operation, longevity, sustainability. But at the best point is for the human psyche, so that those things don't get carried in between the home and the workplace, or kind of spoil either or because of one or the other. So I think that's kind of where the world's at as well with working at home, micromanaging your connection points and managing your time, but understanding that your awareness and, your own middle manager. So we'll go back into the self side of things. So, but that's a good point. And I know a lot about that on the business side and the home side, but, I don't really put myself as the average just because I was always aware and I was always communicating to the point that I felt comfortable, because there was always a misstep on the decision making of direction and the people that were put in a position to, take the action to make the direction move. So there was just not an appropriate voice or time. So if you can find that in your business, you can find that in your home. I think a lot of those kind of tags that we would say is jealousy or, kind of self-worth challenges would kind of be exposed. And I think they would be happily, connected, having conversations and, moving things more efficiently and sustainable. So, but thanks for letting me jump in there again, Coach.
Oh, you're welcome. Anything for you, Sujata?
I can't see my phone just now, so if there are other people on stage, I'd like to hear from them.
Candida. Hi, Candida. How are you today?
Hey, Coach. How y'all doing? Hi, Sujata. I've never ever tried to.
Sujata.
I'm not even gonna try to mess it up because I know how they feel. Hi, Miss Janetta. I don't know Byron, and I don't know nobody else's name. But how everybody doing?
Phenomenal. What are your thoughts about jealousy impacting the workplace, impacting your life with the next door neighbors, etc.? What is your experience? If you want to give us a brief, 2 to 3 minute share about jealousy.
Well, I know when I was younger, people used to like to share clothes. And so I was told that was a no-no, share clothes. So whenever somebody would ask to borrow my clothes, I had to give it to them, in a sense, because I don't share clothes. But some people would let people borrow their clothes, and then they didn't want to give them back. And so it would cause a conflict. So now I be wondering, because, there's when you want somebody's stuff and you ask to borrow it back then they want you to give it back. Why not give it back? But in a sense, was you jealous? Is that why you wanted the clothes? And so I had a situation one time where after being told, don't let nobody borrow nothing unless you're going to give it to them. So I had a friend who wanted to dress up nice for an occasion, and she wanted to borrow a hairpiece. It was a hair clamp with little designs or something on it. It was one of my favorite little clamps to wear when I wanted to dress up my hair. And I knew when she asked to use it, it was because I always used it to dress up my hair when I wanted to dress up. And she claimed she wanted to use it to dress up, and she knew how I felt about certain things. And when she asked to use it, I told her, I said, oh, you can have it, right? And I felt like she took it as an insult. So when she gave it back to me, it was broke. So that's a clear sign of sometimes when people want things from somebody that they really, don't want them to have it, or it's a jealousy thing. I don't want you to have it, so, they take it from you.
And break it and give it back to you broken.
Yeah.
I don't mean to laugh at you, Candida. I'm laughing with you because I've had that happen.
Yeah. And I wasn't even mad. I was just like, she could have gone ahead and keep it. I told her she could go on and keep it when I gave it to her. Because in my head, I was going to go on and buy a new hairpiece. Well, dang, she know how I feel. Why is she asking to borrow this hairpiece like this? Maybe I need a new one. I was like, oh, you can go on and have it, And she brought me back broke. But that was life, you know. Things happen.
We always take the high road. That's the best way.
Yeah. I just really was just like shocked that she even, that it was the initiative that was, if you were going to bring it back, at least it could have been in a condition that I gave it to you. Then I would have known that you appreciate it. And that when you asked for it, it wasn't because you wanted it. You didn't want me to have it. Like, it was something that you knew I liked it, and then you didn't want me to have it. Because generally, times out of 10, when somebody asks something that you have, and be like, "Oh, where you get that from?" And if you can't tell them, then they want yours because they want something like it. So if they can't get it like it, then they must want yours. So then that's the jealousy. How can I get what belongs to you?
It's great. Yeah. Thanks, Candida. Appreciate that. Very much so. And with that, I hand it to Annetta. Hi, Mama. Hi, love. How are you? If you guys want to come up and join us. And with that, Annetta, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am now. I'm sorry.
No,
My phone blanked out.
No worries. No worries. Would you like to share on your views on jealousy and the workplace or neighbors or any of the above?
This is an interesting conversation, definitely, and I'm enjoying everyone's comments. That's for sure. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you, Candida. Thank you, Sujata. Great conversation. Jealousy. Wow. It does raise its ugly head, doesn't it? But usually I find that there's a trigger. And when that trigger is lit, it's really hard to pull it back, or to it sets you on fire, and you find yourself being propelled either with words that do more damage or actions that do damage. And it's hard to it takes a lot of effort to recover from that. So my take on jealousy in the workplace is usually those triggers are easily set because the environment is either toxic, hostile, or it's just never happened. And I know that's kind of hard to believe here in 2022, but if it's never been faced, sometimes it's just that. And I think it was Brian that said that, talked about, or it might have been you, Coach, not sure, structure. That was you, Coach, because you talked about goals and structure. A structure in place to deal with it. So, but if it's a healthy team that can sit down, you can really have great conversations around a hard topic such as jealousy. So I'm just going to say, forgive me for that. I'm just going to say unhealthy environments, unhealthy relationships create unhealthy communities. So you got to start at the root, and you got to look within yourself. What is the trigger that ignites my jealousy? Before I take action or say something to a person, I need to do a self-check inward and have a plan of action to deal with mine, because when I put mine with others, it will be ugly. Can you recover? Yes, but it takes effort. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share, Coach. I yield the mic.
A very good perspective, and it is actually about human behavior and psychology, and it's been there in society, as you said. It's created as an environment. If we learn to appreciate who we are and that others are also equally good or unique, it would do away with it. However, that doesn't always happen in the real world.
Excuse me. I suddenly realize I cannot mute because if I mute, I shut down the whole system. Well, thank you so much for that. And thank you, Sujata. One of the things that I see in jealousy is also a formidable insecurity that people deal with, where they might have had, when they were a kid, been made fun of. And so therefore they're operating in the defensive mode over and over again. And, I look at how do you climb into somebody's world and support them when all of that is at play? It can cripple a business. It can cripple a relationship. Because so many times people will get married quickly without learning some of these triggers that exist in the relationship. Just like companies will get into bed with another company. They'll start doing business together, or they'll be in some type of relationship that allows them to get close. And then there comes that moment where the closeness from that point onwards really, how would I say it? Our defense, so let me back up. Our defense then becomes our attack. And that's where it gets nasty. So we get triggered, we get defensive, we retreat, we go inward, whatever that is. And then we come out. And I think this is where we need to create a collaborative front. We need to communicate collaboratively. We need to come up with ideas. We need to be in communications like this, where we can support each other and hear how each other would respond to a situation. So then we have some choices.
Yeah, we always have a choice.
Always have a choice.
Hey, Coach, it's Byron, real quick.
Yep.
You brought up the idea of communicating, right? And, from my many years of fine-tuning this and breaking it down and fine-tuning it and breaking it down and still juggling it, I find the value structure of it is the key with communication. The person, communicating, or the business communicating with another business. The other side has to see value to hear it. We live in such a venting, ranting, misplaced world as individuals. Anything on scale comes with the requirement of many voices. So if you add all those little things up, there's a value structure there. And if there's communication happening and there's no value put on it on the received side, there's no response to it. So then the communication gets shut off. or it changes because they try to adapt, or the business or the person will try to adapt to be heard. And what I noticed is that when there's that little bit of a misunderstanding of receiving, communication for a purpose, and people or businesses interpret that communication in their own right, not listening to where it's coming from and asking questions on why, I tend to find where there's a curve, or there's a characterization in the delivery of the communication changing, and that disappropriates the original purpose. So that, the communication on a whole, it's supposed to be effective, but where is the effectiveness responsibility? Is it in the receiving side, or is it on the transmission side? Because when we rely on the person speaking to always, or the company, that's leading the conversation of communication, if we rely on them as the person that has to course correct to get the point across, the original point changes so much, or it can be coerced to be changed so much, that no effective action can be taken or will be taken. So we really have to look at communication on the receiving side, and being open to ask questions when we don't understand, that don't derail the source or the understanding of why the communication was needed in the first place. And that's kind of where, I try to help mediate some of these things in my daily life and work-life balance. Even with my dogs, same thing. But I think it's really on the receiving side, where we lack in these days, because of all the noise and all the complaints that we hear constantly, within ourselves or from other things around us, and we just don't know what to do with them. There's a lot of fear in there, or there's too many pain points, involvements, managers, people, decision makers, and those kind of situations cause a lot of misunderstanding, and which, usually dilutes the ability to bridge those gaps and really make, the right decisions, or the space for something to, have an aha moment or be received. So I sit with that a lot with a lot of people, silently with myself, wondering why or what's going on. But I find that, my ability to change how I say things, or why I say things, or when I say things, tends to over time change the original thought or original, helpful information, or even a question, so far away from the originating problem or condition, or even, partnership inside business or in your home, that it becomes diluted. And, a lot of people rely on those kind of things to just kind of, put, what's the word nowadays? Oh goodness, cancel culture. That's what it is to cancel it out, because it's already too much information, or overwhelming for the person receiving or the company receiving this information to handle in the moment. So that's kind of where I would leave, communication in this kind of, jealousy factor, or self-worth, or value structure, internal or external. It's just understanding the received side of it, and, asking the right questions that don't really dilute the effectiveness of the original, point, statement, or even question that came about. But communication is key, man. It really is. And just sitting and receiving something in its original form, and then trying to understand it is probably the hardest thing for most people or businesses.
Well, I really appreciate what you just shared, Byron. And one of the things I want everybody to know, we're going to be wrapping up this room pretty quick here, as it's a 1-hour show. And I do want to let everybody know we're coming back tomorrow at the same time to continue, and we're going to continue with this theme. So I'm going to go ahead and put the link up above, because this is a wonderful topic that we're communicating back and forth. And I think that there's room to take this discussion one step further. I think it's something that people can use And for that, I'm super excited and just really appreciate each and every one of you. And so what I'd love to do is before we actually close the room down is just literally go in PTR order and share our experience of this conversation, and what are we going to look up or think about between now and tomorrow. And I'll start that off. So what I got out of today is how much jealousy secretly rolls into the structure between somebody and messes it up, because in the beginning we're friends with them, in the beginning we're learning about somebody, and then all of a sudden jealousy comes in and we start getting guarded with our words. We may even start planting false negatives, which I think is just horrible. And tomorrow what I want to cover and make sure that we cover is how to resolve some of these conversations, how to repair them in such a way that people are empowered, enlivened, and lit up after the conversation. That's what I'm interested in. So that's the homework. Sujata, I'm going to pass the mic to you for final thoughts.
Yes, it's a topic which needs a lot of discussion and cannot be done in an hour. I'm happy to do that tomorrow and continue the conversation further, because there's a lot which we can dwell on, and you have laid it out perfectly well as usual. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow as well.
Thank you. Byron, closing thoughts, sir.
I would just say mind your own jealousy, because it all starts within. You know, that energy transfer from your gut to your brain, and then making sure that you filter and interpret things so they don't come out in everybody else's eyes as a jealous energy, because it'll just come back at you from their energy as well. What you put out is what you get. So just minding all the vocabulary around the word jealousy and how that appropriates with communication is probably the key with yourself and others. So
as soon as you said that, Byron, I thought of another saying that we have: mind your manners, mind your P's and Q's.
I love that one.
That's awesome. Thank you. Jeanette.
Well, I'm jealous of the comments that Byron said.
Well,
he took them right out of my thoughts. How dare he? So, yes, that was a great comment. Thank you, Byron. I enjoy sharing the stage with everybody. Thank you.
I'm look forward to seeing if you guys can all make it tomorrow. It'd be great. And with that, hold on one second here. I'm just writing that in your P's and oops. Thought I would add that to the back so that we had it available for copying.
Hey, Coach, what does P and Q stand for? Maybe that's the beginning of the next one, the definition behind that, the history.
Well, you know, it's interesting that you should ask that. And all I can say is I think one of them is, I think questions is one of them.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought maybe mind your personality and mind your questions.
Mind your P's and Q's is an English language expression meaning mind your manners, mind your language, be on your best behavior, watch what you're doing. And here we go. Attempts have been. Come on, here we go. Let's go. Now it's not going to go there. Here we go. Okay. One explanation favored in a letter to the editors, notes and queries, dated 1851, is a literal interpretation of the saying regarding possible confusion between the lowercase letters P and Q in schoolwork or typesetting. Mind your P's and Q's. Oh, I love it. Investigations by the Oxford English Dictionary in 2007, when revising the entry, turned up early example of the use of P's and Q's to mean learning the alphabet. So there you go.
So it comes down to language, which is the base of communication.
Amen. I love it. I love it. Thank you for that, Byron. Thank you, Jeanette. And with that, I'm going to flip over to Candida. Candida, do you have any closing thoughts? Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow. All right, Annetta.
Short and sweet. More to come. I'm looking forward to it, and I will mind my P's and Q's more appropriately now.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. And Rosaline.
I'm jealous of Annetta's comment. So there.
I know, Jeanette, I laughed more and clapped more at her comments than yours.
No, I'm even more jealous of Annetta.
That's a very good example.
Yeah.
Janet, that you're not really jealous, okay?
Janet knows I'm not jealous. All right. Well, with that, Love, Anne, Rosaline, and Sega, we trust that if you want to come back and hear some more of this, click on the link above where it says Coach Les and Sujata, and we'll see you tomorrow. We so appreciate this, and we'll do some fun little closing music here as we go into the background. Do.
Coaching with Les has doubled my practice. If you have any struggles in your business or your personal life, Les is your guy.
He's logical, he's empathetic, he has passion for helping people, and his ideas are genuinely thoughtful.
So if you're looking for a business coach with integrity, choose Les Hill.